Good afternoon or good evening. We're trying some new stuff right now, and hopefully you guys can all hear okay.
Yeah. Welcome to Brimfield Matters. We're trying, yeah, we're definitely trying out some new software. So we're kind of excited to be able to get this on. So hopefully you can see what we see, and if not, text us, I guess. That would probably be fine. But we are trying out a little bit of new software, and like I said, if there's a glitch, please bear with us. So we're doing a little special one this week because we just had a vote, and we just actually had a meeting today
Right?
too. So
Yeah.
we can maybe talk a little bit about both. I think the we can maybe talk about the meeting first today. If anybody saw it, it was just a one event. It was about an open meeting law violation that was at the end of the last meeting, but they didn't actually vote to release the town council's argument or letter to the attorney general. So that was just an oversight on their part last time. So this is just kind of picking up that where that left off.
Yeah, and it should be noted though that one very strong word of encouragement and congratulations to the sitting board. The first time since July, they actually set an agenda, over 48 hours in advance, and they didn't change it.
Right. There was no revision. I think there was a revision in the first 4 minutes or something when it was posted. They had a revision, but I don't know what that was. It could have been something.
Yeah,
Who knows? But that was just clerical. But they didn't add anything to the end of it or do something that way. So
Yeah.
anyhow, that was good.
They didn't add building committee to it as usual.
Yeah. So it did go on and it was fine. I would like to point out that I'm not sure if it was videotaped and it will be on demand, but it was interesting that they posted it. If everybody notices, for I guess the other way, up that way. Let's see. I'm gonna try up there. 4 o'clock. Anyways, so 4 o'clock. It was interesting that it was at 4 o'clock because one, that's not a time when a lot of people who work can actually attend, and I'm not sure if that was on purpose or just maybe the way it is. But was even more interesting is there were only 2 of the 5 sitting board members that could actually attend live. Two of them were in absentia; they just weren't there. And the new Mr. Bercovici, and I don't know if I'm butchering his name, Bercovici,
We don't know.
and Soto, and obviously, again, I'm not faulting them. They probably work. The Mr. Adams was present via telephone, which I thought was interesting in light of the kind of the claim or the feeling that the board wasn't going to allow remote participation, and clearly
Right.
that just means public remote participation. But I don't know. I'll have to go back and see exactly how they worded that. So that was an interesting oversight that only 2 could be live and only 3 could be there in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, slightly disappointing. Hopefully, with the addition of the new selectman, if he shows up to the next meeting, that you know it does sound like he works and he might have a regular job, and maybe we can even get it back to the 6:30 time frame, which I think is very
Right.
very beneficial to the residents who want to attend.
Right. Exactly. So, yeah, there was no reason to do it at 4, in my opinion. I think it was just maybe a way to reduce the number of people that were able to attend, including the complainant of the open meeting law violation. So, let me, we'll go back. I just want to reiterate last week was an interesting week because we had the election, and so voting does matter, and we wanted to make sure that people kind of understood that. I thought it was really interesting. Crystal came in. If you didn't see us last week, she came in and gave a good presentation. I think answered some really direct questions. I thought we were quite pointed and didn't hold back.
Right.
Maybe even apologetically. The I thought she did really well. And so,
If I could,
yeah, yep,
just going to that meeting, I just want to make a comment. At the meeting, uh, before Crystal came on, we were discussing the prior meeting where one of the topics was the personnel policy, and at
right,
the time I had said that it was a shame that whatever I had said, something about Ms. Collins having voted on the personnel policy and didn't even know that it existed.
right,
And I was wrong, and I apologize for that. She in the meeting said that wanted to know if Mr. Soto had reviewed it against our personnel policy. So
the standing.
she did
yeah.
know.
Yep.
So that I just wanted to clear that up and
Yeah.
say I'm sorry for that allegation.
No, I think that's good. I did. I went back and I did hear her say that. I thought we had a discussion with Mr. Soto afterwards as well, just a brief one, just talking about the personnel policy. And the other part that was disappointing, that remained disappointing and wasn't an oversight, is that he did put this work into it. And nobody actually told him to stop and just read what we already had. And all the section heads or department heads have the HR document, usually on their phone, certainly in their desks. And so it would have been nice to have armored him with that first so that he could then go out and look at the Wales, whatever one he wanted to look at, and comparatively, just go through it and see which one was better, or what could be improved. So he was taken aback to know, right, when we said that there was one, he had no idea. And I think that was a failure of communication amongst the members, and maybe he didn't ask the right question at the right time or to the right person, but I thought that was it just wasn't good. It wasn't efficient. And I hope he doesn't feel like he wasted his time, but I think he kind of wasted his time, a lot of his time.
I hope he wasted his time, and not because of him or anything else, just because we as a board and boards prior to us and department heads spent a lot of time building the existing personnel policy, which isn't perfect. By no means is it a done thing. It should never have been let go for even the year and a half, 2 years that it was let go.
Yeah, it was an albatross around our necks for a while. I think maybe because it was so much to take on at one time, and I think when we finally still started to make headway, it was in bits and pieces, and that worked out better. Just do one section and kind of go with it. And we did learn a lot. Unfortunately, you learn a lot on the fly when you're on these boards, because you come in absolutely green, not knowing what was done before you, knowing that not knowing if things are half done in a drawer somewhere or in a folder on someone's laptop somewhere, and that was aggravating. I have to say that was a little bit aggravating.
And that is, totally off subject now, but that's a really important, topic. Is you get on this board, and I think you've seen quite a few iterations of it now where new people come onto the board and think that they know everything and want to change and just sprint right out of the box. And what they end up finding out, like Mr. Soto did a little too publicly, unfortunately, was that he doesn't know the history of the town. He doesn't know even what two boards prior to this board did. And I would really like for somebody to to come in, sit back. I mean, I don't think you spoke a lot the first year or two.
No,
I spoke probably a little bit more than I may have even should have, but at the same time, I also was familiar with the finance committee, and I think it's very important to have people on the select board who have cut their teeth on a different board already. And it's unfortunate that we've had now a number of selectmen that come in here totally wet behind the ears, and just want to make changes and don't understand. You can think out of the box all you want, But if you don't know what the box is and you don't understand what the box is,
Right.
it's tough to go outside of the box and not get the town into trouble.
Right. Right. No, yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot of moving parts. I think when you first come in, to me, there was no way to understand it initially. I mean, there were so many things that came through the warrant, understanding what you had to sign, what it all meant. It took a long time of following other people's leads to get to the point where you can just understand it a little bit.
Yeah.
So,
Or,
yeah.
and now this is my segue.
Oh, nice.
Or if you're not, on a different board already, at least attend the meetings, which was one of the reasons why, I was very happy that Crystal jumped into the vote. See how I did that?
Yeah, nice little segue. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. So, Crystal has been listening for the past year and a half now, attending almost every meeting, and I believe she's been, watching on TV afterwards if she hasn't been.
Right.
So, and I think that would set her up to know more than, I'm going to say, the average select board member at this point does.
Coming in blind, no, yeah, right, yeah, I would say that's probably true, right? I mean, I really do believe that, and so we do want to, the election happened, and we want to give a congratulations. We do have a new sitting board member that's taking the position of Mr. Leeming, and so it's 2 more years in that term. And so Alan Berkovici, again, I hope that's the right pronunciation. And we'd love to talk with him again. We want to see if he'd be willing to just sit down for a few questions, and we can kind of get to know who he is a little bit more. Maybe we could reach out to the new, actually, Mr. Soto. I don't really know him very well. I mean, I kind of know of him, but not him. So it'd be nice to kind of get to know some of these individuals and see where they're coming from as far as how they sit on the board, what their ideas are. And obviously we want to say, Ms. Harry had a good run as well, and I thought did well. Given the fact that it was a Saturday election in a not great weather situation, and it was moved from the hall to the, down to the fire safety complex, or the safety complex, that I think could have thrown a few people. So I thought all in all, it was more of a turnout than we expected on that. Not unexpected given the motivation that was happening around town, but I thought she did well. I thought they both deserve credit.
Yeah.
I did reach out to the Deb Fagerstrom, the town clerk, about the venue. And because some people had asked, well, why is it being there? Why wouldn't it be at the school? The school is where it always is. If it's not at the hall, why wasn't it at the hall? So it could have been at the hall. It was, to mandate is a little bit strong, but the Secretary of State challenges places that to have more than one voting establishment set that's available in case things have to change. So they want you to vet that out to make sure that it's functional, works the way you want it to. We all know that the schools worked in the past, and there's maybe a little bit of a push away from using schools just because of the potential violence, I guess, across the nation. I don't know how strong of an argument that is, to be quite honest, but we know that the schools worked in the past. In this particular instance, it wasn't going to work. There were other things being used in the gym and the schools being used on the weekend.
Yeah, and I think, going back to the violence, I think that is a real concern. When I was growing up, we had the elections in the school, and the parents, or not even parents, but voters would be walking down the halls and really get to scope out the whole school.
Right.
Where I do think that our school is set up really nicely to protect from that.
Right.
Where there are 2 doors, if you had it at the gym,
right,
or the cafetorium.
Yep.
There are 2 doors, one in, one out, and you could lock the door to the rest of the school.
Right.
Beyond the bathroom, so you could have the access, you could have the voting, and you could have the bathrooms all in a central spot with no no connection to the students at all.
Right.
No observing anything that shouldn't be observing.
Right. No, I agree. I think we do have that the way that's set up is actually kind of conducive to a very easy workaround. And when I spoke with Ms. Fagstrom, it was basically this safety complex was kind of a test, and it worked. It worked really well. I mean, nobody could argue. I think it would work in a pinch, whether it be if the hall were not available or if the hall and the school were not available. I'm not sure if there's a rotation or if there's a hierarchy of where it would be, but I think that's mainly what it was for. So some people were asking why, and that's what it was. I mean, it was basically just to kind of make sure that that was going to work that way.
I agree with you, but I think there should be more coordination with the chiefs. And I know one concern that got brought up. I think it was from a friend of mine who's a paramedic. Was that we had to push all the ambulances out, and on an ambulance you've got refrigerated medicine,
right.
And so the full day of voting, this was they had to leave the motors running so that they could leave the engines running.
Yep, interesting.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, unless there's a way to power them some other way, but sounds like there isn't an easy one.
Yeah.
So there are issues, obviously. I think that need to be considered.
Yeah.
All right. So at this point, I think there really wasn't much again on the agenda, so we were kind of going to segue. So we had a little bit. Mike, I think you had some ideas that you want to kind of bring about as far as voting habits and things like that.
Yeah.
So start that.
The past couple of elections, it's really seemed interesting to me that certain things have been happening with our elections, which I just haven't really liked that much. And I never fully understood them, but I think it is important for people to recognize these. And there's definitely an email and phone chain going on, and if you're new to town, if you're whatever, you may be put on one of these lists. And these lists, you've got to ask yourself, why are they contacting me? And are they knowledgeable about the candidate? And by that, are they close with them? I could call up about Paul, and Paul and I, have sat together, but there's a lot of things that I don't know about Paul. Some of them I don't want to know.
Fair enough.
But why is there a vested interest in somebody calling for a candidate? This candidate, for instance, there are a lot of people that didn't just straight out don't know who he is.
Right.
And are they, I guess, on the call, if you get one, are they saying positive things about the candidate or negative things about the challenger, or the other candidate, I guess. And I think that's something that you really have to understand and think about. So we're back to this, just so you
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then now I forget all of them.
Okay.
So I guess that's really the first thing is these emails and calls. You've really got to ask yourself and ask the person contacting you, why are you doing this? Is this somebody that you really like, or is it because there's somebody that you really don't like also running?
Right.
This phone tree didn't start, wasn't there to begin with. And it only started after a candidate, started a writing campaign.
Right.
And that makes me really
Right.
wonder what's going on.
Oh yeah, definitely. Absolutely. Several people are getting phone calls asking, where their stand was, who they're going to vote for, and this is for a 2/3 of a term fill in for the select board. It just seemed like there was a lot of effort as well. It was aggressive.
Yeah.
To be honest, I mean, not illegal, not wrong in the big scheme of things. You can't say that it was, but it was interesting the amount of effort that went into a rural select board election. To be honest,
Yeah.
I thought, anyways.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and really, what I like this bottom bullet, which is ask if you can speak to the candidate personally. Don't accept someone else's opinion if possible. You know, Crystal came on and she was able to talk about, and I think Paul and I did a decent job
Hmm.
at asking her some tough, pertinent questions.
Right.
You know, I never heard any of those from the other candidate.
Right. And we, we reached out, and we tried to maybe get somebody to reach out to the other to Alan, uh, Mr. Bergovici, and unfortunately, it just didn't happen. Now, it could have been that he just didn't get notified. It was a very short time. I'm not sure, but we did try, and maybe it was a little bit on. We were backpedaling a little bit. It was a little fast as far as the timing was a little bit fast. So it may have been a little bit equally on us because it was such short notice. But we're going to try to do better because we want to try to have this channel be um, more of a informative channel to kind of give an idea of who's out there and why they're out there, and hopefully get to know them a little bit. We try to be a little bit less in the way of one side or the other, but I wanted to make sure that we actually offer that situation or that opportunity to anybody who wants to be on. So
Absolutely.
yeah, because I think we can learn from that. Right?
Yeah. Yep. So, and it's really sad for me to have to even say this one, which is that it always seems to be stated that there's been two sides. There's the flea market side, and I'm going to say the town side. And I think Paul and I have been painted as anti-flea market time and time again, which I mean just is not the case.
Right.
And this has been really unfortunate. Thinking about that.
Yeah, it's definitely not true. I mean, we've reached out. We've had a lot of opportunities to discuss things with flea market operators. When I was chair, and in the years that I was not chair, just on the select board, it took a few years to understand the flea market. It took really years to figure out the financial part of it. The previous lawsuits that people bring up, it's like the bylaws, which are antiquated and need. So there's so many facets and so many directions you can go when you just talk about flea market. To say that you can paint a picture and have it one line in the and have half the people here or people on this side, people on that side, either for or against, is just wrong. I mean, and it's blatantly, I think, hyperbolic to do that, and it's just, it doesn't help. It's very divisive in the town, and it's just wrong. I like the flea market. I like when you go around and people say, "Oh, I know where you're from. I go to the flea market there." I mean, everybody has that story, right? When you go, no matter where you go.
Oh, yeah.
And it's nice. It's endearing. It is good. We had discussions about the flea market and the numbers of permitting kind of going down a little bit. We talked about marketing strategies, but pre-COVID, with a few members of the operating group. And I thought it was extremely rewarding because I understood things from their perspective a little bit more, and it was very helpful. Now, Triple E and COVID, I was chair during those instances, and it was challenging. You needed to keep everybody safe. You needed to understand that this is their business, and it was hard. I mean, it was very hard, but it wasn't anti-flea market, and they know.
Right.
During those times, I worked very hard to get them the best situation that they could. But it was a pandemic. We had Triple E, and there were situations that were beyond our control, and we had to do what was right safety-wise. But we've had these discussions about making things better. It's never been cancel the flea market, cancel the flea market. That's
right.
just not the way we've thought about things.
Right. And, one of the points on the slide was, there were some bylaws that Crystal helped in that were, talking about the tents and stuff like that. Talking to her and me saying what my opinion, I don't think it was ever her intent to make the tents come down, or else you're never going to be able to be a field again. it was simply a discussion. It started on Facebook by who knows who, saying that tents are up for a long time, and the proper thing to do if you're a select board member, if you're interested in town, is you see a problem on Facebook, you see a problem, just in discussions with friends and neighbors,
Mhm.
you try to fix it.
Right.
And bylaws are the way to do it. Ideally, that would have been something that and Paul and I tried to get this to be a discussion, and I believe the Harrys at one point did too. Try to get a discussion with the Flea Market Advisory Committee,
Right.
and they could have changed the bylaw to something that was amicable for both.
Right.
If there was, or they could have listened to the other side,
Right.
on Facebook, on the I'm not gonna. I'll say my friend circle for the most part are people that are more that aren't in the flea market, so they don't know, so much what's going
Right.
on
Right.
there.
Oh yeah, there were nuances of it. I mean, and then this is history that I would bet bottom dollar most people don't understand or know of the history of the tents going up and down, and what, a handshake and a nod, they would come down after a certain amount of time. Then there was, every tent's got to get inspected, so I don't want to have them come down and go back up, a month later or whatnot. Why would I want to do that, or why do I have to do that? And then there's a law about the temporary structures in Massachusetts where you can potentially leave them up for a long period of time, as long as they're inspected once. And then there's the discussion, well, the interpretation of that law says you can, but you don't have to leave them up, allow them to be left up that long. So this just warrants a discussion, because what people see are, when you drive by and they're just tents there, and it's in between. There's no, we have weeks before and after a show. Well, half the people are driving by saying, look at these tents, why are they still up? And the other half of people saying, all right, these tents are up, we got to get ready for the next show. Nobody's talking to each other.
Right.
And quite honestly, if you understood it from a business sense, you might say, I get it now. Maybe we got to reel back, this is their livelihood. Let's figure this out a bit. But if you're in the show, you got to understand that people don't want tents and storage
This is their
and
home,
stuff. It
and
doesn't look good. It's not rural, pastoral, belted Galloway cows in the background. It's
Or
not
Randall's.
that. Or Randall's. It's not that. And unfortunately, those two sides seem to never be able to sit in the same room and discuss it. And I don't know why. Because this would have been a beautiful opportunity to say, you know what? Sit down and talk, because the way this is written, it'll never pass. It'll never fly. Why don't we talk about why we do things?
Yes.
And maybe we leave them in and we understand it a little bit better. And instead of getting, it rained yesterday, there's no help, to take them down. Well, be honest. What's going on? Is that you tried to get people to come out and take the tents down? Just say you didn't, and just go with that, and just say, no, we
and
don't
there's
want
valid
to.
business reasons for doing it.
100%. Just sit around a table and talk.
And now, shameless plug of Brimfield Matters. Hopefully, that's something that we can help with. I think when we were on the board and were chairs, I think we tried to reach out to the Flea Market Advisory Committee, and they were more helpful because we asked them for help. When we were on for these bylaws, nobody actually requested the assistance of the Flea Market Advisory Committee, or maybe they said no. I forget exactly what it was.
Yeah,
but
for the bylaws, no. I mean, that's a whole different issue. Why things got handled the way they were.
So hopefully, we can just do away with this. You're either for the flea market or against.
Right.
There's nuances, and this town is very unique and has those unique challenges that we have to overcome. And that's going to happen, either cooperatively or combatively.
Right. Agree. I agree. I think there's definitely an open avenue to walk down to talk, but I think there are challenges about doing that. especially when it is set up. And I don't really think that there's a lot from the top down to underscore what we just said. I mean, I just don't think you get that feeling. But we're here. We want to make it so that people can talk, and maybe we can get a group discussion on this show. Because even if we got a few people in the same room, or we did a live show from
The gazebo.
the gazebo, or anywhere else for that matter, that would be great.
Yeah. Yeah. And now another thing that has been said a lot was said about both of us is that we're divisive and obstructionists. You know, there's a difference, and I mean, I guess I would counter with, you know, all that we're trying to do is, you know, create a conversation. You know, there are points. There's a lot that goes on at a select board meeting that when I was chair, you know, people would raise their hand and have comments, have questions. And I also tried to explain some of what was going on at all the times.
Right.
I don't think in any way that's divisive or obstructionist. You know, and most of the time I raise my hands now, it's for clarification of points more than anything else.
Right.
And or, you know, give information that they obviously didn't know much about.
Right. No, agree. I think there are a lot of again, I keep saying this, there are a lot of moving parts to these elements of being on a select board. And sometimes you may say, okay, this is what I want. But you look back and you say, okay, this is how the town it's been, and this is why. And maybe what you want is not necessarily the best interest of the town, both short-term and long-term. And so you have to learn, I mean, politics is compromise. And it is being able to say, all right, I want that, you want that, maybe we can do something in the middle, or maybe your way is probably better for the town long-term. I don't think we're obstructionists when we question half the stuff that's going on. I think it's more to point out we know a little bit more from the inside of the workings, that when something happens, it may jostle some people at home, but it can irk us to no end. You say that's blatantly not true, or that needs to be clarified. So you will see the hands go up and try to get clarification, or to make a point, or to ask a question about why something is being done the way it's being done. And the reality is, it's not being done necessarily the right way all the time. And it is a learning curve, but I don't think it's obstructionist when we ask some questions about the building committee. I don't think it's obstructionist when we ask questions about an open meeting law violation.
Right.
Quite honestly, it's legal stuff. And some of the things that have happened over the last 6 months and 18 months are straddling and very close. And the chair has come out and said, oh, you know, you guys are being obstructionists. You guys are being, these are unfruitful open meeting law violations. But the reality is they're not. There've been a couple things where we have been right, you know, and they had to stop and change and undo what they did, or at least acknowledge what they did.
Yeah. And I would say that, well, actually, I can't even say, because we actually haven't lost any of them. I mean, they've all, to date, as I said last time, you know, 2 were the chairman, Ms. Collins, apologized for doing things improperly. 1, I didn't pursue any further. You know, Paul will find out about his.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't pursue it because
right.
It was a situation where the town could have been taken backwards had we pursued it, and even if you had won, it would have been not necessarily the best interest of the town.
Right.
And so it was not pursued, and so that I thought was a good choice again for the town.
Right.
The one that was the meeting about today, I didn't even get the chance to discuss it, and nor did they say why their reasons were that it wasn't an open meeting law violation. But I'm going to tell you straight up, on that agenda was the discussion about electing for a Mass General Law section that allowed the chiefs of fire and police to give themselves their own schedules for details. And so basically, what it meant was the boss gets to give hours to himself. And so it was an acknowledgement, usually in a rural community, that there's no other way of doing it. You don't have other people, in the back room that you could assign to do this, that, and the other thing. So that they have to act as functional firefighters, police officers on details. No brainer. It should have been just done. Instead, they started talking about the chief's duties and what he was going to do from now until his retirement in November. Well, that wasn't on the agenda, and that shouldn't have been on the agenda. And then they were kind of referencing other meetings and during that discussion, and that was wrong. To me, it still is wrong. And I know I'm going to get a letter saying it wasn't wrong, and I'm going to ask again to see if it is wrong, because I thought it was. And
So at the very least, what our being obstructionists have done is hopefully make this board cognizant that we're watching, and that they're at best skirting a line, if not going off reservation completely.
Right.
So that's that's about all that I have to say about that.
Right. All right. Shall we go to the next one?
Sure.
All right.
So then, the last thing that is really, unfortunate. I mean, and people will say that we're attacking people potentially on this show. But there have been any number of things that I've heard about myself, from my financial well-being to, who knows, all sorts of just stupid, unfounded things.
Right.
And it's just wrong, and why do people say that? Why are they doing that? Because that's the only way that they can poke a hole in myself and Paul and Crystal and whoever they're against. Right. And I mean, it's just the old bully thing, which, when all else fails, go personal.
Right.
Which I just don't get.
And I have to say, yes, there are things that have come up in our discussions, and quite honestly, it's only gets a little bit more emotional when what I'm responding to has gotten emotional. I mean, I've had my character definitely cut up when I was on the board. I've been told I was certain behavior type. I've been diagnosed, So there's just been a lot of things that have happened, and some of which were not during the meeting, some of which were after the meeting, and some of which were during the meeting, quite honestly. And so, that kind of gets you a little bit personally. But I have to say, I've never gone outside and affected somebody's business, nor do I want to, because that's separate. If you join a select board, you are trying the best that you can do, I guess. So, for that person, I don't want to necessarily, I don't think it's right to go into the business side of things. When you had your sign checked for because it was a half an inch,
a 16th
of an inch off. You know what? If you got to get a ruler out to say that the sign's offside, out of the parameters, then one, it's actually childish. It's insulting. It makes no sense whatsoever that somebody would do that, especially given every sign in the flea market virtually during flea market is out of ordinance, if you want to. And anybody can just talk to the building inspector and ask him about the sign bylaw. And he tried to fix it a little bit a couple of years ago, and obviously it was voted down. It's unenforceable. It's a ridiculous bylaw. He doesn't think it has any merit to it, any value to it, until it gets changed. So for some individuals in town to just look at somebody's sign at the end of their driveway because it's a 16th of an inch. If you can't tell a sign is, number of feet out of whack, then you just got to step off, I think, in this time. It's just not right. Otherwise, ye and glass houses kind of thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So I think that's the last one, right? Oh no, there's one more.
Yeah.
So with that, I'm sorry to even have to bring this up because it is just childish what's going on, and the phone trees, the email chains, whatever's going on, you've just got to stop and ask yourself, if you're getting these things, who's it coming from? Do your own research, and try to reach out to the candidate themselves. Listen to what they're saying,
Right.
not what a surrogate is saying about a candidate or against a candidate.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think it's to try to make oneself aware. Unfortunately, I didn't know. I knew Crystal just because of some of what's happened over the last 6 months when I was on the board and she was in the audience. And so I kind of knew her name. I don't know Alan. I asked around. Not many people know him. I think he's on the finance board, but I'm not sure. I've never run into him, and I don't think you have.
Right.
So there was just not a lot of information, and we tried, but I have to say that we were a little bit late out of the gate to try to get that across, and maybe we need to be a little bit more forthcoming, or a little bit more preemptive, I guess is a better term, to make sure that we get these people into the limelight so that we know who they are, and we know who we're voting for. Because if you just voting because somebody's told someone, oh yeah, that's the name you want to check off, and you check it off, you get what you get. And unfortunately, that's just the way it works.
And I guess the other is, if you hear the one side and you don't like candidate A, but you've heard so many bad things about candidate B that you're not going to vote, all because of, one email or one phone call, that's not the right thing either.
Right.
Hopefully from now on, we can have more interaction with the candidates and make sure that they're, everybody knows the platform. I will also say that one of the things that I heard about this Mr. Bercovici was that we have to be lying when we said on the last show that he didn't that we didn't know him because we appointed him to the finance committee. We may have, I can't even recall.
All right.
So we may have, I guess, if in fact we did, I couldn't see any minutes of when he was appointed. I always thought that he was appointed after the town meeting, which was shortly before the election. So I'm not convinced that we actually did vote on it.
And we very well may have. So the way, just so people understand, a lot of the appointing, just because a board is under the auspices of the select board, we defer to the board. And so if the ZBA comes in and they, two of their members comes in, they've got 2 nominations and they want to select 1 or 2 of them for positions of either active or inactive, or what do you call it? Anyhow, so associate positions, they can come in and do that. And so if they've done the vetting and it's somebody that they want and they like, who am I sitting on the select board to say no? Quite honestly, and so I think there's a lot to depend on the boards and the committees when they bring these names forward. It's nice to know them. It's nice to even meet them.
Yeah.
But it doesn't always happen.
Right. And I would even go as far as saying that with this, I don't believe the finance committee even knew him. But the only thing that I knew about him was that he was familiar with Marty and Suzanne.
Right.
and they seem to know him.
And to say that because he was on a nomination item on an agenda and was nominated to a board to which he applied and the board wanted him to be on, doesn't mean I know him.
Right.
Right. I mean, more people might have nepotism kind of ideas than I, but I'm going to take it as there were. Well, one, we got a resident from town who wants to help, who wants to do something.
That's number
all right?
one.
Step up. I like it. All right. So now you already got half a vote, and then you've got the chair or vice chair or somebody on the board to which you want to join, and or to which you want to attend or whatever, become a member. And who am I to say that you're not the right fit for them if they think you're the right fit for them? So what we usually ask for is, or what we used to ask, to kind of know who you are and actually meet you. It doesn't mean I know who you are.
Right.
I just, I mean, I could walk in here maybe at the flea market, or I could walk in at the Brimfield market. I might not recognize you after that one episode, and I certainly don't know your politics, and I don't know where you stand on the senior center, and I don't know where you stand on veterans affairs. I don't know where you stand on the hall and the buildings and the school,
yeah.
and everything. I mean, I just don't know that much about you. So to say we knew just because his name showed up on an itemized sheet, I mean, I guess we should do due diligence, but the reality is you have to trust your department heads,
right.
your section heads, to do their work too, and that's certainly what was my intent whenever I'm on the boards.
Yeah. So.
All right. So I think we just want to reiterate that voting does matter. I mean, it'll be really interesting to see what happens with voting in the future, and what happens over the next 7, 8 months,
Yeah.
I guess, till we get to next year, and what comes up on the town meeting. The town meeting is going to be really interesting because the bylaws that get written up are going to get written up in about, usually everybody talks about writing up bylaws, and then the holidays come, and then you forget to actually write the bylaw or adjust it or anything. So then January comes and you say, okay, now we got to get everything together. It's got to get in by February. They extend the due date until later in February, and then it gets to March before you get on the warrant. And a lot has to happen. So now's the time. If you think there is a bylaw that needs to be rewritten, now's the time to write it, question it, get it to the bylaw committee, give them plenty of time to read it, and get it so that it's polished by the time it comes to town meeting, and it's been discussed a few times, and that everybody, a maximum number of people, can support it. Because the reality is, if a certain group of people show up at town meeting, and this is true, it's been true for the last 20 years, if a certain group of people are at town meeting, then a certain bylaw will or will not be passed. It's
right.
either going to be, so I remember when they were doing, I don't know, it was like full-time kindergarten or full-time something at the school.
Right.
And they tabled it for a little bit. All the family members went home, and then they brought it back up and they voted it down. And it was just one of those things. It's just strategery, as they say, of the meeting, because the meeting can be an interesting element in and of itself. All right. So I think that's pretty much all we had. This is kind of a curtailed episode because we weren't following a meeting directly, and so we are going to have an episode next week after the October 12th meeting, which will be Tuesday because of the holiday, and so we'll we know that's going to happen. So we're going to have it next Wednesday at the same time, 6:30. But a couple of things that we just want to make sure that we kind of went through some of the social media, and there are a few things that are upcoming that have that are timely. And one is the car show, which I think is, what's that date on there? Can you?
October. 8th.
Oh, it is 8th. There it is up there. October 8th at the Brimfield Auto Show at the Brimfield Winery, and so that's going to be there. So we just want people to be aware of that. And the other one, there are a couple of other things I wanted to kind of make sure people are aware of. There is a Walktober, and this. And the trail, basically it's for the trails, and I got a bigger slide so you can actually see it. This is interesting because it looks like they do it at different places. They're relatively easy walks.
This is part of the Last Green Valley.
Yeah, yep.
Which are you familiar with the Last Green Valley?
Yeah, I remember that. I forget his name. The individual that came in and talked to us. We were still meeting in the annex. That's how long ago it was. And we got the certificate for being one of the members of the Last Green Valley. And we had been working with him because I was on the green community thing, and we were kind of doing a few things in the background. Yeah, it's a really interesting group. Yeah, it's really cool. Very cool.
So I'm a geography type of guy. So
yeah.
So the Last Green Valley came about, for those that don't know, it's if you look at the New England, a picture of New England at night, you'll really see light everywhere down, from Worcester south, and from the Cape over to New York City.
Right.
And there's only one remaining green, path almost to the Long Island Sound.
Oh, very cool.
And that's coming right up from Groton, Connecticut, all the way up through Woodstock, and it hits us and just goes a little bit beyond. So it's
neat.
That's the Last Green Valley. Everything else is light pollution and everything else is all built up.
It's all built up.
So it is kind of cool that we're part of that.
So to reiterate, they're having let's see, the Grand Trunk Walk is 2 miles, and what's that date up there?
That's also the 8th.
Oh,
no,
6th.
That's 6th.
It's the 6th. So that's actually tomorrow. So that's pretty quick. I probably should have put that first, timing wise.
Yeah.
But so anyhow, it looks like it's supposed to be actually a beautiful day tomorrow. It's going to be like in the 70s and sunny, and so it ought to be a really good day for this. Yeah, no kidding. It should be a really good day for that. The next note, maybe not as happy. This is the Crumbling Foundations. They're having a meeting on October 26th, an informational meeting in Auburn. And if you don't know anything about this, there's a movement to try to make awareness about crumbling foundations that were built with cement and the aggregate that had particular matter in it, that it was pyrolite or whatever it was. That crumbles over time and literally loses space so that the concrete crumbles. And so so a lot of really honestly, it's people that have had houses around here into Connecticut, a little bit east of here.
It's from a quarry in Connecticut, I believe.
It is. And they didn't know it, I guess, at the time, but it is what it is. And so that was my understanding, at least at the beginning. So if you have a concrete foundation that has, it's kind of like spider-like foundation cracks, kind of in a weird pattern. And if you go to Crumbling Foundations in Massachusetts, they've got a Facebook page and a website, I think, as well, where they can describe the cracks and how it looks. And they have these informational meetings to try to see it. I mean, some people have lost the entire value of the home because they've got to shore it up and put a whole new foundation in, and so it's kind of a travesty. It's a terrible situation.
Yeah, and this group has done amazing lobbying for state funds, federal funds.
Right.
And if you are suffering from one of these bad pours, there is money available, and they're trying to get more money. I believe there's money available.
Right.
There has been money in the past, and they keep trying to get it, and they're fierce fighters when it comes time to trying to get money to do it.
I mean, half the battle at the beginning was making awareness and trying to get the government to offset the testing, and then to try to get money to help the people out. And I don't know, honestly, I don't know how far it's gotten as far as what can be done, but I think it's making awareness to try to make the pot that's potentially available for people that much deeper, to be honest. So, so that was kind of part of it. All right, and another thing that we had here was the farmers table. There is, looks like there's an event for on Saturday, October 22nd. So we'll be talking more. I guess we can talk a little bit more about this, where they're doing it's to raise money for autism, and so there's an event that they're having as well on October 22nd.
At the winery.
At the winery as well. I'm sorry. Yep, at the winery. So we'll put that up there for you. It's also all over Facebook and and we'll repeat it since we've got a couple of opportunities to repeat it between now and when it actually occurs.
Sure.
And so if you have anything else that's coming up, just let us know because we'll try to get it out there. Because again, that's what we're trying to do. This is supposed to be, we're trying to make this a community kind of informational forum, facts based, and try to kind of, if people have questions, just write in. We've got the ability to, there's one more thing that I want to mention before we get into the communication and contact. So the October newsletter is available at the brimfieldmass.org Senior Center on the left in the column. The October senior newsletter is available at this time as well. And I think there was something else that you wanted to say.
Yeah. So I also was talking with Eva Pitzinger, the Senior Center Director, and she was saying that there's a ukulele workshop.
Come on.
Oh yeah, October 12th at 10 a.m. and it's filling up fast.
There you go.
As it should.
Awesome.
Learn to play with music plus comedy. Ukuleles are available to borrow or bring your own.
Nice.
Learn to strum and form chords, play and sing along with the Beatles, rock and roll, and country music.
There you go.
A light lunch will follow.
That's awesome.
And then there's also on October 28th is the Celebrate Fall with Earth Rhythms party. And that's going to be with Roger Tinknell, singer, songwriter, and multi-instrumentalist.
Oh.
So he's going to be doing some Earthly Rhythms program.
Nice.
And the menu for this dinner is polenta squares topped with tomato, basil, and cheese, green salad, Italian bread, spaghetti and meatballs, and cake and ice cream for dessert.
Nice fall comfort food. It looks good.
So you
Sounds
must reserve by October 22nd with a donation of $5, which is requested to offset the cost.
That is not bad.
So if you are interested in any of those,
cool.
Contact the Senior Center at 413-245-7253.
Yeah, and they also have their website. If you go to the brimfield.ma, brimfieldma.org website, you'll be able to kind of link right to the Senior Center. Go ahead.
And the last one is just a reminder that the fuel assistance is now open for the season.
Right. Yep. Awesome.
So
it's really important.
And this is one of those things that is kind of, Eva really is a hidden gem of town. And one of the things she does is this fuel assistance. And although she's a Senior Center Director, if anybody is in need of assistance for fuel, and I hope I'm not speaking out of school, I'm pretty sure Eva has said that she will help anybody with the fuel assistance.
Yeah. I mean, that Senior Center's really motivated to help. I mean, they've helped during COVID. It was unbelievable with the Senior Center as far as getting people outside, getting them active during when COVID was just kind of coming out of the height of the pandemic, getting food to people that needed it, getting prescriptions to people who needed it. It was really, I have to say, it was a pleasure to know that they were doing what they were doing in the background to keep everybody healthy. They're just, they work relentless, just relentless.
Absolutely.
So one more thing I just want to show that we can be contacted through these means. We've got a Facebook page, we've got Gmail, and we've got YouTube on Brimfield Matters that you're watching now. Please subscribe and get your friends to subscribe. The emails will take anybody who has any comments, anybody who has, you should talk about this, you should talk about that, or I have a question about this or that, or if anybody wants to come on and just talk about what they're doing, and we certainly make that an open invite to people that work in town that are maybe on particular boards in town as well.
Right, and we'll try to get people on the show if you send us something and say, I'd like to hear about the plans for road improvements this coming year.
Right. And then one other question we want to put out there, and maybe you can answer via those contact capabilities up just above there. So we wonder if people would watch this, if this were on a demand on a local broadcasting channel. We are maybe entertaining, trying to record this and get this posted on the 191, 192, whatever, on the demand on the local public broadcasting channel. We just were wondering who might be interested in doing that. So if you are interested, just let us know, and would be really
If you
interesting.
don't think it's a good idea,
If you don't think, yeah, if you
also
think
let
it's a
us
waste
know.
of time, let us know, because we don't want to go through the effort of doing it, but we might be able to work with our local broadcasting to try to get that across. So we're excited about that. If that can happen, maybe we could do it in both venues. I think that would be a good idea. Potentially even on Facebook Live for event shows and things like that.
Yeah,
The
we're multimedia empire
multimedia,
growing.
yeah, we are growing leaps and bounds. So the other thing, if you want to comment on the graphics of today's show, you can feel free to comment at those same
Be
contacts,
kind.
but only positive comments if you don't mind. This is I know it's sometimes of a train wreck, but it was we were just trying a few things. If you don't like certain colors or certain transitions, just let me know. Episode 8 will be next week, the October 12th. Again, it's a Wednesday after the October 11th select board meeting, and we're going to be on that one the next day. So hopefully that will be. We'll see everybody then.
All right. Thank you very much for listening, and yeah, subscribe at the lower right. I'm gonna try to point to. Ready?
Yep.
Over here.
Nope. Oh yeah, yeah. There
Yeah,
you go.
that's
Yeah,
gonna be
that's
right.
pretty good. Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Very well done. I'm impressed.
All right. Have a good night.
All right, everybody. We'll see y'all later.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night. Yes. Oh, I'm off though. Oh, look at that. Right to it.
Nice job. I'll wait until that goes dead.